Welcome, rational thinkers and champions of evidence-based reasoning, to the Free of Faith podcast. This is the place where we dare to peel back the comforting but opaque layers of faith-based claims and expose their logical shortcomings. Today's question is a fascinating one. Does evidence for a deistic God, a kind of cosmic clockmaker who winds up the universe and then steps back, increase the likelihood that the biblical God actually exists? At first glance, it might seem that way. If there is some sort of creator, doesn't that open the door to the Bible's God being real? Let's carefully explore this idea and see where the reasoning leads. Imagine a child named Tommy. Tommy believes that a loving ghost named Oscar lives under his bed. Tommy also says that this ghost tortures him every night. Suppose experts confirm that there really is a spirit of some sort present, and that this spirit is indeed tormenting Tommy. Does that confirmation make Tommy's claim about a loving ghost named Oscar more believable? It does not. The very description of a loving ghost who tortures children is contradictory. A loving being cannot at the same time inflict harm. Evidence of a spirit does not increase the likelihood of Tommy's specific story. This is much like the situation with the biblical God. Even if we had evidence of a deistic God, such evidence would not make the logically incoherent biblical God more likely. Here is an analogy. Imagine you are walking by a pond and you find duck feathers scattered along the ground. The feathers are good evidence that ducks have been in the area. But would you then conclude that Donald Duck, the cartoon character, exists? Of course not. The feathers show that ducks are real, but they do not confirm the existence of a talking duck who wears clothes and lives in cartoons. In the same way, evidence for a deistic creator may point to some kind of first cause, but it does nothing to confirm the specific and extraordinary claims about the biblical God. The step from general evidence to specific claims is not justified. Now consider how this reasoning plays out in what I call the deistic bait and switch. Christian apologists often argue for a first cause, which is a broad and fairly modest claim. Then, without clear evidence, they shift and claim that this first cause is identical to the God of the Bible. Imagine I tell you that I have a large nugget of pure gold in my pants pocket. You notice that my pants are sagging and that my pants pocket exhibits a large bulge. The lump in my pants pocket is evidence that there is something in my pocket. However, if I try to claim the bulge is actually a golden spherical cube, you can turn and walk away without further questions, confident that, whatever it is in my pocket, it is not a logically impossible spherical cube of gold. In the same way, producing evidence that a creator may exist does nothing to substantiate a logically contradictory God. The leap from deism to the Christian God is unsupported. Let's explore a few of the spherical cubes of the Christian God. In neuroscience, every mind we have ever observed depends on a physical brain. Consciousness is always tied to brain activity. There is no evidence of a disembodied mind. This means that the idea of an all-knowing mind existing without a brain goes against all observed evidence. Next, consider causation. Every cause we know of happens in space and time. Events take place in this framework. So, the claim that something outside of space and time could cause events within it has no parallel in our experience. It conflicts with everything we know about causation. Also, remember that all beings we know have limits. Humans have limits, animals have limits, even stars have limits. Yet the biblical God is said to be infinite in power, knowledge, and presence. But infinity is not something we have ever observed in the natural world. It is a mathematical concept, not a living reality. To claim that such a being exists is to go beyond what inductive reasoning can support. Let's ponder another analogy. Imagine finding mouse droppings in your house. That is clear evidence of mice. But would you then say, this proves that Mickey Mouse exists? Of course not. Evidence of mice does not prove the existence of a cartoon character. Similarly, Evidence of a deistic God, at most, points to some kind of initiator. It does not make the logically incoherent biblical God more probable. The conclusion is undeniable. Evidence for a deistic God is not evidence for the logically incoherent biblical God. Just as duck feathers do not prove Donald Duck, and mouse droppings do not prove Mickey Mouse, evidence for a creator does not substantiate the God of the Bible. When Christian or Islamic apologists slide from the idea of a first cause to the claim that their favorite God exists, they are not making a logical argument. They are performing a rhetorical trick. If we value evidence, we must keep the categories separate. The burden of proof for the biblical God remains unmet, and the contradictions in the claim remain unresolved. So, what have we discovered today? That evidence for a deistic God might suggest a broad, undefined cause, but it does nothing to support the logically incoherent biblical God. If this conversation has sparked some questions, or even some discomfort, that's a good thing. Questioning is the first step toward clarity. Don't settle for easy answers or platitudes. Dive deeper, explore further, and demand evidence. Head over to Free of Faith to read the full article and join the discussion. Let's keep this conversation going, because the pursuit of truth doesn't stop at questioning. It's about finding answers that actually make sense. Thank you for tuning in to the Free of Faith podcast, where we expose the logical failings of faith and celebrate the clarity that comes with reason. Until next time, stay skeptical, stay curious, and remember, rationality always outperforms faith. Engage reality, and I'll see you soon.